Genesis 18, Jacob had an encounter with God. Oh, God is here and I knew not. Jacob awoke out of his sleep. Surely the Lord is in this place and I knew it not. And he was afraid. How dreadful this place. So, do you know God is in this place? Unfortunately, many of you are like Jacob. You don't know. Please look at it again. He woke. What did he see that made him to make that statement? Read.
And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran.
He went from Beersheba and he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night because the sun was set. He took off the stone of that place, not knowing that one of those stones was the stone that Abraham read as an altar. The place has now scattered.
My God.
It's now scattered. So the reason there were stones there, it was formerly an altar. So that's why you have to understand, altars cannot be destroyed except they are deleted. There's a difference between removing an altar from a place. The altar is still there. Why? The altar began from a physical arrangement to a spiritual thing. So even when you remove the physical thing, the altar is still there. That's why some of you have rented a house, things are going down. You don't understand. Because there's an altar you cannot see. You have to delete the altar by what we call the law of the tenant. You have to understand how to operate the law of the tenant. Do you know the law of the tenant? Go and look for the tape. Go and look for the tape. You rent a place or you buy a place and problem in that place. You have to use the law of the landlord if you bought it or law of the tenant to delete and to nullify the operation of that altar because the altar may have been packed away. They packed the altar. I was in UK, I rented a short let. And you know what I saw there? The man is Buddhist, the owner of the place. So he has put a Buddhist altar in the short let. I saw the Buddhist thing. You know how it looks. Some of you go to eateries to eat, and you see that Buddhist thing there. If you don't create an altar, that Satan has been looking for how to reach you. Listen, altars give access to spiritual realm to do things in the physical realm. That's the reason why they want to reach you. They can't reach you because there's no altar. We call it access. And all altars begin from the heart. There are 4 dimensions of altar.
My God.
There are 4 dimensions. Go and buy the altar book. Altars begin from the heart. That means someone wishing you evil has created an altar. Because all altars are first in the heart. This is not the first altar. There's an altar in heaven, there's an altar here, but there's an altar in your heart. The heart altar, the house altar, the elevated altar, and heaven's altar. So how do we send offering from me? How do I send offering to God's altar? How do I go to heaven? I can't go to heaven. I have to understand the system of altars. So it starts from my heart. That's what the Bible says, don't give grudgingly. Because if you give grudgingly, you set up the wrong altar. It will never be able to get there. You need to create the right willingness and excitement. That's the first altar. Then you take the seed and you put it in your house altar. You should have the house altar. Then you take it from the house altar to church, to the elevated altar. And then from the elevated altar, it hits heaven's altar. That's how what you give gets to heaven. Buy the altar book and you will understand that. Now, that means when somebody wishes you evil, he has an altar. That's an access. That's an access around you. That means the devil wants to hit you, but he can't find an access to you. Now, the best way I can explain this, and I don't know how these people got it, is Matrix. If you haven't watched Matrix, it's one of the most spiritual movie you can ever see. Matrix. I don't know these guys. They're in one realm, they take a phone call, and they get to another realm. And sometimes they want to run from this realm, they can't find an access. They can't find an access to go into the other realm. So they are looking for a telephone booth everywhere. And they find a place, they take the call. Zoom, they're gone. See? Moving from one realm to another realm. So Satan wants to kill you if he can today. Satan wants to make you sick if he can today. Satan wants to steal your blessing, your breakthrough if he can today. The problem is he can't find an access. That's why you have to be careful where you live, the people that are around you. And one of the biggest ways to deal with altars is with an altar.
Yes, sir.
You need an altar to deal with altars. That's the reason why I have altars everywhere. They are gateways. Come on, say gateways.
Gateways.
And that's what your heart is also. Your heart is an altar. It creates a gateway between the spiritual and the physical realm. When your heart is dirty, you are offended, you're unhappy, you easily get spiritual attacks. When you are bitter, when you are depressed, you usually get spiritual attacks. Because you are creating what? A negative altar, an access to be attacked. Satan cannot use the altar of God, so he needs another altar. Every negative wish, negative desire you have is an altar. That's why you must not keep any unforgiveness in your heart. Because it creates an altar through which Satan can operate. Are you still here?
Yes, sir.
So an altar, when created physically, creates a spiritual one. So the physical one, even when packed away, the spiritual one is still there. That's why some people stopped worshiping an idol. But the spirit is still there. Say, I have right. The spirit is still there. Your fathers have stopped worshiping the shrine. Your father is dead. But the spirit is still laying claim on you. Why? The altar has been maybe broken physically, but spiritually, the altar still exists. Because there has to be the interface of physical and spiritual. So when you create the physical one, it attracts the spiritual one. It becomes physical, spiritual. So physical things can go to the spiritual realm. Spiritual things can go to physical realm. That's the reason why no sacrifice is done without an altar. Even in the negative world, they have to have an altar. See? So they tell you, go to the junction and do something there. What have you just done? You created an altar. And to you said, I want a child. They say, okay, go to the junction, put a bowl, put this, put that. The minute you did that, you created an altar. That altar may not be to attack you. It will later come to attack you, to attack other people in that area. So, should we go and fight all altars, break all altars? No, just have an altar. Because altars fight altars. That's the system. And when you have an altar, ensure you service it. The Lord said something to me while I was in Ghana the other time. He said, any altar that has no worship is a shrine. If you create an altar and you don't worship, what have you created?
Shrine.
Because all altars are first spiritual. So they are created in a physical way. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So Abraham created an altar. Abraham has gone. The altar has been scattered. But look at what happened when even the single stone of that altar was contacted. He lighted upon a certain place. He tarried there all night because the sun was set. He took off the stone. He saw stones. Oh, kabaristaba. Then he took one of the stones and put them as his pillow. And he laid down in that place to sleep. And for the first time, he had a spiritual encounter. He dreamed a ladder was set up in the earth. And the top of it reached heaven. Imagine a ladder that can go from earth to heaven. What created that ladder? The altar. There was a ladder there. That's why there are places you go. You have visions. You go to some places, you don't see nothing. Why? For you to travel into the realm of the spirit, you have to go through either two directions into the realm of the spirit. Let me quickly give you that one. One is inwards. You can go straight inward and use your heart altar to the realm of the spirit. The second one is outward, where you are looking for a physical altar to pass through into the realm of the spirit. Angels also pass through those portals to come to earth. Don't think angels just come through any place. No, they pass through portals. That's why prayer is very important, because prayer, consistent prayer, creates an altar. Prayer covenants creates altars. That's why sometimes they tell you, I don't want you to pray. Landlord say, I don't want you packed from this house. Why? You are creating an altar that is bringing spiritual activity. Prayerlessness will ensure that there is no altar, and that prayerlessness, no worship, no praise, there will be no altar, and there are already negative altars. So you get more attacks than visitations. But when you create a prayer altar in your house, then you have created a place for angels to come very quick. Some of you angels have to come from the nearest portal, and the portal is 3 kilometers away. That's, you are creating a delay in your life. And while they are coming from 3 kilometers away, they may be attacked on the way. You say, can angels be attacked? Read in Daniel. The angel was arrested, not just attacked, and kept. Angels can be arrested. Negative beings can arrest positive beings. Just like positive beings can arrest negative beings, depending on your level of your authority. So we see that through this stone, where there was an altar there, he took one of the stones. Why are all these stones here? Let me use it for pillow. He puts his head on it, and he has a vision. And he finds himself in heaven. He dreamed a ladder that set up to earth. The top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. What were the angels using? Oh, you thought angels just leave heaven and appear anywhere on earth? No. Angels follow portal.